So let's start the webinar. Welcome to you all. And with the CBI webinar, Inside the Mind of a European Fashion Buyer. And on the right, you see some of the important rules. And let me just say a few of them that are important. We cannot hear or see you, so if you have questions, you can use the question tab. There will be questions on technical issues, but also questions on the contents of this webinar. You can ask via the questions tab, and we will have 3 short question sessions after each presenter. The webinar will be recorded and will be on our website available, as well as the presentation. Okay, we have 3 presenters. We have Frans Tilstra, Pieter van der Gaast, and Giovanni Beatrice. And Frans and Giovanni are the persons who write many of our apparel studies, which are available on our website. Pieter is a consultant in the fashion industry and is a guest speaker today. They will each introduce themselves when they start their part of the presentation. Okay, I wish you a good time in this presentation and good knowledge to get. And then I'll give the floor to Frans after I've just shown you where you can find more information on CBI. That will be on the website of CBI, and there you have also a small animation. You can hear this in English and in French, and it will just show you what kind of information we offer. So go to our website for that. I'll give the floor to Frans.
Thank you so much, Thomas, for the introduction. Just let me see if I can get my presentation on the screen. So, is it visible for you? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, inside the mind of a European fashion buyer, that's what we're going to try to show you today. What's going on inside the mind of a European fashion buyer? We have the following program. So first of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the studies that Giovanni and I have written for CBI and where you can find them and what's in them. About 10 minutes, then there's a short question and answer round, and then we have Pieter van der Gaast, who is a fashion buyer, and we're going to pick his brain today and dive into his mind. And then after his presentation, there is another question and answer round, and then following there is a presentation by Giovanni Beatrice. He is a consultant, fashion consultant, but also extensive knowledge of fashion buying. So he will dive into some specific categories. And then afterwards, there's also a question and answer round, and then we will be closing the webinar. So there's lots of opportunity for you to ask questions and for us to try to answer them. So this is me, Frans Tilstra. As Thomas explained, together with Giovanni Beatrice, I've been writing studies on apparel for CBI. I'm a market researcher, and I have a special interest in sustainability and innovation in general. So, first of all, a little bit about our research approach. We've done a lot of desk research for our studies, and of course, we've been interviewing many different buyers, and we always try to find buyers in different phases of the value chain, so to speak. So we try to talk to agents, private label companies, as well as to brands and retailers, and also online multi-brand platforms. Also, we've done interviews with sector associations, and especially Giovanni has a lot of expertise based on running CBI programs. He's connected to a number of CBI programs. So first of all, the studies that we've been writing for CBI, where can you find them? Well, they're actually on the Exporting Apparel to Europe website of CBI. I advise you to take a look. There's many different studies on how to find buyers, what kind of requirements buyers may have, how to organize your exports. We'll be elaborating a little bit more about that, and also about specific product categories. So yeah, just I advise you to take a look on the website. There's many interesting information there. So first of all, we've been writing a number of modules for CBI on buyer requirements. So these are studies that explain how to do business with buyers. What do they expect? How can you manage expectations? How can you meet expectations? And one of the studies is called buyer requirements. I will tell you a little bit about what you can find in the study. There's a lot of info there, a lot of hyperlinks as well to more background information, a lot of examples, a lot of tips. So I won't be telling you everything that's in the study, but I will just give you a quick overview of some of the topics you can find. So concerning the requirements that fashion buyers may have, there are a number of legal requirements. These are mandatory requirements. If you want to do business with Europe, if you want to sell fashion to Europe, then these are the requirements that you have to meet. There are legal requirements concerning product safety, and this is to make sure that the product that you export to Europe is safe for consumers to use. And then, of course, there's REACH. Many of you may have already heard of REACH. It's one of the most notorious requirements. It's a restriction on the use of chemicals in fashion and apparel. There's much to it. REACH is very strict. It's also updated twice a year. So there's many chemicals that may occur in apparel that you just can't use if you want to export to Europe. For instance, certain azo dyes or flame retardants or waterproofing or stain repellent chemicals. For instance, chromium-6 in leather. All these kinds of chemicals are restricted by REACH. It's an EU regulation. There's also additional regulation for children's wear, for instance, on buttons, cords, and neck strings, just to make sure that children's don't choke on certain items on your apparel. So this is also a legal requirement. There's not really a legal requirement, an EU-wide requirement concerning flammability of apparel, but certain nations, certain countries have specific national requirements concerning flammability. And then there's, of course, this CE marking. This is for personal protective equipment. You're obliged to affix CE marking to PPE as a visible indication. So if you're into that market, then you need to take that into account. Then there's a labeling. You need to specify what materials your items are made of. The origin is not yet required, but there's EU regulation on labeling. Also on intellectual property rights. Of course, it's there's international law and also EU law. You can't just copy designs. There's very specific rules that you can find in the study as well. And finally, CITES, that's concerning the use of endangered species of animals and plants. Also international rules, they apply in Europe as well. So there's a lot of information on all these topics you can find in the study buyer requirements. And then, of course, next to legal, so the very strict legal requirements, there's also non-legal requirements that specific or certain buyers may have set for themselves. So many concern sustainability. There's a lot of buyers in Europe that have very specific ground rules, for instance, for their materials that they use in their apparel, or the way that the materials are processed, for instance, in the wet processing, and also many requirements concerning sustainability and CSR concerning the manufacturing of garments. For instance, BSCI is one of the most popular requirements asked of manufacturers. REP also, ETI. You see some of the specific requirements and the specific standards on the right of the slide, the right side of the slide. And of course, now in the current situation, many buyers may also require a certain COVID-19 requirements that make sure that guarantee that your employees can work safely in the factories. Of course, you need to follow local rules and regulations, but buyers may also have additional requirements concerning COVID-19 precautions. There are also requirements concerning packaging, for instance, the type of packaging you use or the way of packaging or how many items can go in a certain type of packaging. The study elaborates on packaging requirements as well. And then, of course, there's payment terms. Many buyers may go for a down payment for the first order, but in consequent orders, there are other ways of organizing your payment terms. There's many details in the studies you can find, except for quality limits as well. Concerning sustainability, this is a nice tool, the CSR risk check. Many buyers in Europe may use the CSR risk check to see what kind of CSR risks may be found in the country where you are producing. And there may be other buyer requirements as well concerning product design, garment care, communication, be proactive, be prompt, speed to market, very important for many buyers. Flexibility as well, and in certain niches, buyers may have niche requirements for certain styles. So all these topics you can also find in the buyer requirements study, with many tips and many links to additional information. And some of the topics will also be elaborated on by Pieter and by Giovanni. Another study, finding buyers. Of course, one of the most important parts of doing business is getting your product onto the market in Europe. These are some of the topics you can find in the study. So first of all, you need to determine the right channel. Do you want to sell to an agent? Do you want to sell to a brand? Do you want to sell to a retailer? They all have different requirements. You need to find a matching buyer. You may be interested in doing business in a certain niche. There's a lot of information in the studies on how to promote yourself, how to present yourself, and also information on many different databases, online databases, where you can find many different buyers and also tips on how to approach them. One of the last tips on this list is let support organizations help you. Well, that's a very good tip, of course, CBI being one of the support organizations that can help you with export promotion programs. So this is just very quickly a graph of how you can get your apparel on the market through many different channels. I will not elaborate on this. You can look it up in the study and also later on in the presentation. Okay, so a little bit about doing business, how to do business successfully with European buyers. Of course, there's the effects of COVID-19. The industry is basically in crisis mode for the last year. Pieter and Giovanni will elaborate a little bit on that, but there's also information in the studies online. It's important to connect on a personal level with buyers. Most of the buyers are always on the lookout for new buyers, so that's positive news. But they are just as much interested in your factory, in the way your factory is set up, in the people that you have been working, as in your product and your price. So you need to advertise your unique selling points and be honest. Don't say you're the best, or you can do everything, or you can make everything, or you're the cheapest. It's being honest goes a long way. Of course, it's a very good idea to present your products logically, invest in good product photography, show the products that you're really good at, and substantiate your price offer. So make a really good price offer, prepare, and always try to find out what your buyer needs. So do some research in what kind of industry is he working, what kind of products is he making. So prepare before you connect with a buyer. Short example of how you can present your factory and your and your unique selling points on a website. Once again, I'm not going to spend much time on this because it's also in the study and in the presentation. There's also a study on organizing exports, so you need to choose the right payment terms, not too much risk for you, shipment and delivery, what kind of Incoterms, FOB is mostly standard in the apparel industry, but sometimes buyers may require another Incoterm. You can also always choose the type of transport. There's a lot of information in the studies as well on how to pack according to a buyer manual, how to minimize your risks of disputes over quality, you know, once the items arrive and there may be damaged goods. So there's many tips in the study on how to prevent that. And also tips on investment in a transparent supply chain, one of the CSR requirements of recent years. So this was just very quickly an overview of the different modules that Giovanni and I have written for CBI, and all the topics that you can find there. And if you have any questions, then feel free. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Frans. I think we have one question, and the question is: does your website have access to duty rate?
Duty rates. Well, it's a good question. If you look at the studies, there's many hyperlinks to all relevant background information, and also to, for instance, the EU Trade Help Desk, which is a very useful website by the EU, and information on duty rates can be found on the EU Trade Help Desk. So if you look at the study, you will find many hyperlinks to background information, to TIPS databases, and also to legal information and more information from the EU. So I advise you to try and find the study online and try to find the information there.
Okay.
Any more questions? You're welcome.
Oh, I have there's just coming in another question. I'm gonna read it. I have a family manufacturing of leather shoes in India, and I live in Sweden. How can I connect with the buyer in the EU to provide them the quality products at a reasonable price?
So the question is how to connect? How
yes,
to connect
can
with,
I connect
okay,
with the buyer in the European Union to provide them?
That's an excellent question, and once again, I've gone through all the topics in the study very quickly, but I advise to look it up in the study, because there's many tips on how to find, for instance, databases on specific sector organizations or buyer organizations. So there's a lot of tips in the studies on how to find buyers. For instance, hiring an agent, presenting yourself online, getting hiring in the Google ranking on the products that you're manufacturing. So I'd like to say there are a lot of ways to connect with buyers. There's a lot of ways to find buyers, and they are all listed in the study. So that would be my tip.
Okay. Another interesting question: how can we get statistics on pricing competitiveness for a specific market?
Pricing competitiveness. I'm not sure I understand the question. Are we talking about pricing in the EU market, or?
I think he wants to know what a competitive price is for his type of product. So where can you get
Well,
information on what the prices are? And I don't know if he means retail prices or not.
okay, if we're talking retail prices, then there's many information. There's much information online available. I mean, just go to any multi-brand online platform, ASOS, Zalando, Yoox.com, and you can check all kinds of brands and their price levels. Also, in the study on buyer requirements, there is a paragraph on pricing. And also there are some statistics also there on the different price levels and the competitiveness in different European markets. And another tip would be just to talk to buyers. What they may find is a competitive price. And another tip can also be just to compare your FOB prices to the FOB prices of other manufacturers in your country and in other countries as well. Just try to approach entrepreneurs and try to get this information. That would be my tip. But maybe Giovanni, maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on this, how to get competitive price information.
Yeah, I think what they know, the first thing that you need to do when you start business or want to do business with a buyer is to find out what their margin is. Because if you know, if they calculate ×3, you also know what their in-house price is. In-house means FOB price, including transport, including duties, including everything. Once you know their margin, you can see if the products they're selling, if you are able to compete with it or not. But don't forget, there is a big difference between fast fashion and slow fashion, because fast fashion has a higher purchase price, but the flexibility of fast manufacturing is more expensive. And so if a product is made in Morocco, for example, and you calculated that the in-house price is €10, and you might offer it for 8, and you're situated in India, it's possible you're unable to compete, because from Morocco it takes 6 weeks, and from India it takes 3 months. So don't forget to compare apples to apples. If you're based in India, find out the margin of your customer, look at their production, China, Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, and then compare apples to apples. That would be my suggestion.
If you have any questions on how to make a costing sheet and how to calculate margins, that information is also available in the studies on the CBI website.
Okay, there's coming in a lot of more questions, but I think we need to go. We are on a tight schedule, so we'll give the floor to Pieter. And I saw one question who I'm already going to ask, but I think Pieter can say more about it.
Is my microphone working?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
No. Okay. I'll give the floor to you, Pieter.
Okay. You start first with the question, or do we start with the presentation? Because I heard that you were going to ask me a question to answer, and that I should answer a question.
You're right. If I'll start with your presentation, and we'll come back to that question later.
Okay. Thank you for listening. I will try to do my best to give you an idea about how buyers are thinking. What you see already on the sheet, I have 30 years experience in buying, sourcing, sales, and product development in the textile industry. When I started, we had the Telex and the fax. Now we are living in a world which is completely different. Everything is very transparent, and we know everybody from each other, country-wise, etc., etc. I did everything. The only thing I haven't done in the textile industry was doing the administration, because I hate to do that. But that is how I am. I'm a person which likes to create, sell, buy, and just making things happening. You see now the slide with the companies I've worked for. I started in the menswear, confection, suits, jackets. I did a lot of outerwear, And at a certain moment, I was working for a denim supplier in Bangladesh. Just by started as a joke that I met somebody and he asked me, I have some excellent stuff. Can you help me with setting up business in Europe? I took the plane to Dhaka, and 4 weeks later, we had the first client and we did a lot of denims. I worked for a retailer with 150 stores. I focus now more on consultancy, and I do a lot of online platform jobs. My last example is called Black Bananas. That is a brand that started 4 years ago with nothing. It's a lot of is happening by online, by influencers, and they don't have any product experience in how to make the best product, and they hired me to create better products. And yeah, that's very nice to do that because I like to help people to get things better. We can go to the next slide. Now, my actual situation is that I'm sales director of a company called Oriental. That company has an office in Scandinavia. When I was buyer, I was buying from them, and I liked their way of how they were looking to the market. They are very good and specialized in sustainable production, and they do light woven and flat knit from China. And I'm building up now the market for the Dutch, Belgium, and the German-speaking countries. Near that, what I told you already, I am a consultant for the brand Black Bananas. I arranged for them that their outerwear collection is now okay, because before it was looking terrible, but even when it was terrible, they were still selling. And the next project will be that I will help them to get their circle knit sportswear program, that will become okay. So what I do is that I connect good suppliers, which I know, to them, so they get better products. I also do now for a company in Bangladesh called Fashion Express, a marketing strategy plan to create for them better sales. And we are working on a project to deliver fast fashion from Dhaka. That is the subject of our strategy plan, what we made. In the textile industry, you also have to think always in opportunities. When COVID started, of course, I also had less work. And just by doing and helping in the beginning just a friend, I did a lot of stock lot selling for factories in China, Turkey, and Bangladesh. And actually, every week I spent 1 day by helping suppliers to sell their stock. So I'm a kind of vacuum cleaner, and I have now a network of off-price retailers, and yeah, it helps to get rid of stock. And of course, you really have to take the pain. It is not nice, but it is part of it now, and we have to go through it. And in general, I'm also doing fashion consultancy. When I have the opportunity, I cooperate sometimes with Giovanni, and so that will become, it's also something what I'm doing. We can go to the next slide. Now here you see some retailers where I worked for or working with. I could prepare 2 other sheets. Some of them are also gone because in 30 years, many people are disappearing. Coolcat and From Dreesman are important ones which are not existing anymore or not in the actual way, but that's part of our business. Some people come, some people go, and of course we also have to deal with that. We can go to the next slide. Here you see some brands where I cooperated with. I have experience with how to deal with brands, making SMS samples, lead times. The question what was mentioned already about the pricing. A brand is a completely different calculation than a retailer, and it's very good how Giovanni explained it. It is very important that you know how is a brand thinking, what is their markup, what is their margin. You must know what kind of selling prices they would like to have, and yeah, that is a very important thing where you have to spend time in to get that information, or at least you must think really deep how to get that information. You have tricks for that. We can go to the next slide. Yeah, the actual market. It's of course very complex. We are getting a big reset because of the COVID. Many stores in Europe are closed, are still closed. In Holland, where I'm living, started from yesterday. You can make an appointment to visit the store again. So that has a lot of effect on retailers, cash flow. They still have a lot of stock, and it will also have effect on future orders. And when COVID is over, we have to see what is left and which companies will survive the COVID. And yeah, it is a big struggle. The earlier speaker also mentioned it before. The CSR is becoming more and more important. REACH was already mentioned, but new rules are coming, and every year there are new topics, and there are coming more regulations. But the biggest problem is that the buyer often doesn't want to pay for it. Sustainability is becoming more important. It's a little bit the same what I mentioned before. I just said already that they don't want to pay for it. Buyers looking for flexibility. Giovanni mentioned it already. Fast fashion, price ID margin can be sometimes completely totally different than slow fashion, but the actual thing is that buyers are trying to work with short lead times. I will give you one example. The company where I cooperate with together now, a very good example for you to learn from is you can also start talking with your yarn supplier or your fabric supplier that you are going to put, for example, yarns or fabrics on stock so you can deliver faster. And I will show you just one simple example. I show you here. This is a quality flat knit, viscose polyamide. Now, my partner in China arranged a big book, lots of colors. In this book, we have 380 colors, and in these 380 colors, my Chinese partner can deliver in 2 weeks. So you're saving lab dips, you save time, and 2 weeks for China, this product is very fast. But you can do that also in India. You can do this also in other countries. You only must do it. You must start with talking with the yarn supplier, the fabric supplier, because yeah, it can help to get the orders. I know we show that it helps because people sometimes want to decide later, and when you can develop, it doesn't have to be 380 colors. It can be also 50, the most important ones, and you can create business. Now, the actual market also is now getting more and more an online market. So you get new players. I will show you later a few of them. The increased transparency I mentioned already. The internet, LinkedIn. You can link LinkedIn. If you become member of LinkedIn, you can get a lot of information about buyers. And you also have tricks, but I don't know if it is ethical to learn you that to find out the exact email address of a buyer. You have tricks for that. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you can mention it, you can promote yourself. As long as it is not irritating, you can use these tools. What I learned as a buyer is don't irritate your potential client, because if a buyer is getting irritated by you, you're not going to get what you want. And it's also a little bit the next thing, push and pull selling. It doesn't work, totally not. You must know what you send to a buyer before you do it. If you send something, it's very simple to push the button that they want to delete it, and yeah, you spend time it. So if you send something what is personalized to that company, and then you can get feedback. Now, what is also an actual thing is now. You have the difference in an organization between management and buyers. The buyers are the persons which have to make the decision where they're going to book certain orders. And the management is only looking to budgets, margin, entry margin, what they would like to realize. And end margin is something what is not in the beginning important, but all these things leads to that from the top, they come with an idea about this is your budget, we want to have this selling prices, and the buyer has to find a solution to manage that. but buyers are partly paid and getting sometimes a bonus if they realize their bonus. So that is always, what is my experience, I was buying manager and I was also sometimes buyer, a big conflict and a struggle. So suppliers which can deal very good with that on a proactive way, so that a buyer can realize his margin and he can do his job easily. That are the suppliers where buyers are looking for. I made a little bit in statement. What I really I still think that there are a lot of opportunities as long as you just do it and think outside the box. I just mentioned my example of selling stock lots. 8-9 months ago, I couldn't realize that we were going to sell stock lots, and it just happened by doing something. Sometimes in your organization, there is more possible than you think, and you only must, I don't know, it is per company different, but there are always opportunities as long you make a match with buyers which are fitting to your organization. And that will cost you some time in the beginning. It is not so that it is just put on the button and it is done. Now, I mentioned already new players. Some of them you probably know, somebody maybe you don't know. Zalando is a big one in Europe. They do millions of euros turnover. They are taking a big part of the cake now. About You is also growing very fast. You have ASOS in the UK, Boohoo. Also fast fashion is important. My big friends from Black Bananas, I put in the list. In Holland, we have now a very successful company called My Jewelry. Just existed 4 years ago. We have a company in Holland, Jos V, which is doing everything on the Instagram, is now also doing wholesale, growing like crazy. We have a company called Mr. Marvis, is also working a lot with the platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and is more looking on product focus. Is in the beginning they were only selling chinos, and now they're doing other stuff. And the big monsters, Alibaba, Amazon, yeah, you can also use them, but think very careful and think very good about how to use them. You can go to the next slide. Change is also an opportunity. Some things I mentioned before, I think I also mentioned them all before. Think outside the box. You can use the new marketing tools like LinkedIn, which is also an interesting one to mention. Is if you send presentations, make nice clear overviews with nice pictures. Always do it nice. If you present yourself, you only have one chance to do that. If you send pictures which are not nice, a buyer has to fall in love on the picture, and that's also the way you have to think. As long as you send them something what is ugly, straight away they will not look at it, because a buyer also doesn't have time. Can you go back to the other sheet? Because I was sell directly to the consumer by online platforms. You can do that. I know suppliers in Bangladesh and China which are doing that, and often they have then a kind of hub in Europe, and they cooperate with somebody, but there are possibilities. With stock yarns, stock fabrics, close contact with fabric yarn suppliers. I just showed you the example about the flat knit quality. You can do this in denims. You can do this in all kinds of qualities. Now, never out of stock programs is a little bit the same as the other point. Product focus. Frans also told this. I was very allergic as a buyer when somebody told me we can do. If you say that, you're not the best in that. So be the best in where you are the best in, and that can be sustainable production. If you are the best in denims, focus then on denim. So be very clear and open with what you're doing, and why do they have to order from you? They have to choose your company? And that is something where you have to think about how to put yourself in the market. Then another point, what you see now a lot is over styling and design. There are in China, but also from Bangladesh, from Morocco, from Turkey, that are the main countries where I work with, a lot of fabrics factories which change their business model, and they offer a lot of styling ideas, designs also, and by doing that, they get their business easier running. Just sewing and packing helps when, but then you never get a good price. Sometimes a buyer is asking more, and sometimes it can help you to make your business easier. But then I'm talking about local production. Local production, I mean, with certainly now in an insecure period of the market now, yeah, everybody would like to decide later. So I think in Europe also productions nearby will become more important, because yeah, they would like to decide later what they where they will spend their budget. Next slide, please.
Pieter, you have 2 minutes. We need to go a little bit faster, okay?
Okay, go. What are buyers looking for? Solutions, proactive suppliers, important. CSR, important. Workable lead times, partnerships, flexibility. Design I mentioned. But it is the simple conclusion is buyers are looking for companies that can deliver the right product on the right moment with the right margin, made in a very good factory. We can go to the next one. Now, how to deal this? That's a very important one. Select your clients, breathe and think as your client. They have to fit in your business model. And also, what is an important one, work with clients where you have a click with, because you need to create together an energy. And when you have the energy, you can have the success together. Also, an advice to you, visit your clients often and try to understand what they really need. What is an important thing for a supplier is that you know what Giovanni already told, the margin which they need, the selling prices they are expecting, and from the selling price you can calculate back what could be the buying price, and then on that level you can source and give them a solution, or maybe you can give them an alternative fabric, and then you can finalize easier the order. And say no to things where you're not good in. Be open, honest, and transparent. Transparent is always important. Now, and the other 2 points are clear, to my opinion. Make a good plan. Yeah, one last thing, because we are running out of time, is something I would like to mention. The payment situation is now very difficult. Many credit insurance companies don't give credit on big retailers anymore because of COVID, and that's a big challenge. How to deal with that, I don't know. That's for everybody has to decide it by themselves, but it could lead to that we will have to work again with prepayments, with the LCs. But I know my thing is very simple. When I started in the business, my boss told me they have to come for production and for suits in that case with me, and if they need money, they have to go to the bank, and that is a very strange thing where I don't know where it will lead to. We can go to the next one. Yeah, thank you for listening. I hope that that it will help you a little bit. It is just a short time, and if you have questions, I'm looking forward to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Pieter. I will start with one question from the previous round, which is I think you can answer very good. The question is from Thierry, and he's asking, have the buyers told you what is the best form of connection to maximize results? Is it email, phone, social media, and in what sequence and in what frequency? So
I think a very important thing is that you the way you approach clients, it always has to be on a respective way. And what is the best way? That is depending per client, as long as you don't irritate the client. When you have access to an email address, you can send nice mails. Then I also should advise you, make a mail that it is personal, that the buyer will understand that you know more about the company than just the name, and that you also put something in the mail that you come with ideas from that you can fit in their profile, and but if you do push and pull, just like phoning all the time and just mailing at a certain moment, buyers will block you. They will organize like that you cannot call them anymore, and that they will block your mail address, because a buyer doesn't have time to spend. When I was a buyer, I had every week, I think, 60, 70 mails, phone calls from people from countries which would like to cooperate, but you don't have the time to answer them. You really don't have the time. That is a thing that you also have to understand. So it can be that it is a fair, or it is another thing, a matchmaking program to get access to buyers, but a buyer really doesn't have the time to look for every opportunity he's getting in his email or by phone. He has to do his job. He has to realize his margin. That is his main thing.
Okay, thank you, Pieter. Yeah, since we Giovanni has a nice part of his presentation as well, we go through, and I already saw that Giovanni answered already many of the questions in writing. So that's thank you for that, Giovanni. And yes, I think we'll give the floor to Giovanni now.
Hello, everybody. So nice that you have the time to come and visit this presentation. My name is Giovanni Beatrice. My background is similar to Pieter's. I've been on the front side of the business, on the manufacturing side of the business, and in 2013 we started Forward in Fashion. So I moved to consultancy, and now we are a platform of consultants, and we do many different projects in many different countries, in many different aspects of the entire supply chain. Let's go to the next slide, and I'll try to also answer the questions I've read and I was unable to reply to. We'll talk a little bit about COVID, but as a person, I can only say that I'm an optimist. And I think if you are at the front side of the business, you need to be an optimist and you need to think in opportunities, or else you go crazy with all these rules and regulations and restrictions. Where to go? It's sometimes very, very difficult. So be optimistic, and even problems can turn into opportunities. And one of the main questions asked, and that came back several times, is how do we connect to buyers? I just want to give a quick response to that. It is not by saying we have a good quality, we have a good price, and we have on-time delivery. That's not special. That is a rule, that's obligatory for all the buyers. If you don't have a good quality, if you don't have a good price, if you do not deliver on time, they will not do business. So that it does not make you special. My tip to you is focus on what makes you special. It can be a product, it can be a service, it can be the way you manufacture things, it can be different things. So focus on that and try to promote that. It's always easier if a buyer comes to you because he saw your profile on LinkedIn and he's curious about what you're doing, than if you contact the buyer. So in general, that would be my tip. So let's have a look at COVID. It has affected all of us. We have seen disastrous stories about factories in Bangladesh closing down, still struggling to survive. Retailers in Holland, in Europe going bankrupt. It's a very, very complicated situation, but we've also seen some positive effects. And generally we see two directions, and that's one, how can we survive? And two, what does this mean for the future business? Will this change the way we did business or not? What we can see now is that the buyers are moving towards fast fashion because they are afraid to place orders that will be delivered in 6 months. Will they be in another lockdown in 6 months? They don't know. So that is why they order small quantities nearby home, so they know when they have it in the store or online, they are able to sell it. That's what we see now. What will that mean for the future? Will they stay in short-term countries, or will they move back to Bangladesh? We don't know. Will it change the industry? Yes, it will change. So Pieter also explained what are the buyers looking for. They want to reduce risk. They don't want to keep stock. Stock now is the highest risk. There are many retailers now that have stock. The retailers have closed, and when they open, it's the wrong stock in the wrong season. So you see an increase in online sales. Online sales companies are different from retailers. They order small, and by placing many repeat orders, they can do big volumes, for example. So you need to be able to facilitate them. Buyers now are looking for flexibility. Flexibility of MOQ. If you say minimum order for me is 10,000 pieces, buyers will not place an order. They need stock service, so you are fast. You can deliver in 2 to 3 weeks. They need extended payment conditions. This is a risky situation, extended payment, which you need to manage in your company. This is all a way to open the doors to new buyers. Buyers are looking for this. Are you able to offer it to them? Then you're able to open the doors. Next slide, Frans. So let's look at some product categories. Well, before we do that, I just want to tell you a little bit about what's also happening on a governmental level. There are laws being created. Germany introduced a new law. They call it the Germany Supply Chain Law. It's all about how things are made and the effect on people and environment. They want to guarantee that the products sold in Germany are manufactured in a way that meets the requirements. If they discover companies in Germany that manufacture products that do not comply, they will be punished. There are sanctions. It's even possible they will close down companies if they manufacture products in an illegal way or a way that does not comply to the Germany supply chain law. Also, the Netherlands is creating a law that's called the Green Deal. It's all about recycling. There is another law under discussion which will make sure that products manufactured in a way that affects the environment more than other products will be taxed more. So if you make your product in a dirty way, you need to pay more import duties. It'll give clean products a more commercial value. So also from the governmental perspective, there are things happening that will force change. So if you think that you can go on the way you did in the last 10 years, forget about it. That's not the way forward. Sustainability as a driver for competitiveness. So sustainability, look at it as an opportunity. So look at denim. Denim, there's a lot of things happening in denim. Especially on the recycle. You see companies creating denims looking for alternative materials. You can create denim fabrics which are made from 30% recycled denim, organic cotton, hemp as an alternative to cotton. We have a foam dyeing. We don't want any dirty water anymore ending up in the environment. We are designing denims in a different way, so all the rivets and the labels can be removed easily or even reused for next productions. There's a lot of things happening in the denim industry, and the line green is the new gold is really true. So look at the niche. Some people think, yeah, niche market is small quantity, a lot of headache, but don't forget the niche of today is the mainstream of tomorrow. The niche now can create volume business in future. One example, redone by Levi's. Levi's was placing a lot of stock, unsold, what to do with it. So they take the stock, they start to cut and reattach different parts of different trousers, and they call it redone and selling it for double the price as the original price, which has become very popular. Levi's redone. You also have other things: reuse, recycle, refurbishing. Refurbishing is an interesting one because the biggest growing market right now is the second-hand market. Everybody is buying now second-hand and wearing it. So how, as a brand of new products, can you target also the second-hand market? Well, by offering the consumer the solution to bring back the used item if they no longer use it. You clean it, you repair it, you refurbish it, and then you sell it again. Tommy Hilfiger, North Face are all targeting the second-hand market in that way. Next slide, sir. Frans. Yeah. Competing countries. What makes the difference? Yeah. Bangladesh makes denim. Turkey makes denim. Pakistan makes denim. They all make denim. So how can you create a difference if you want to compete with Bangladesh and you're based in Pakistan? Well, I tell you, it's not price. Looking at the future, you can talk about first generation denims made from virgin materials brought into Europe. There is a new business now being created, which is, how do we recycle these products? So we think that part of the new future is to take back what you have manufactured. But if a brand like Levi's sells 1 million pieces on the Dutch market, they will not send them back to Bangladesh. Most probably they will look for solutions nearby, in Morocco, in Portugal, in Tunisia, to do the recycling there. So the first generation will be produced in Bangladesh and Pakistan. The second generation, the recycled one or refurbished one, most probably will be done more nearby the European Union. So change is opportunity, as Pieter also suggested. So let's have a look at dresses and skirts. How can we make a difference? If you say, I have a cotton jersey dress all over printed and I can sell it for €2, great, but nobody will even open this email. That's not interesting. You need to trigger the interest of the buyer, and it's all about sustainability. The way in is offer the buyer sustainable solutions. They are facing sustainable problems. So look at new concept, 3D printed dresses. 3D, it's a niche, yes, now it's a niche. What about tomorrow? Recycled wedding dresses, the use of natural dyes, use of recycled content. It's all the way to open doors to new business and new buyers. Next one. So that is how you can promote yourself on the market. Once you are in business, of course, you need to look towards product development, which make the business grow. If you always tell the buyer, well, tell me what you want and I'll make it, no buyer will continue the business with you. They want your input. They want your fabric sourcing. They want your design input. They want your pattern making input. So there are all different finishes, new stretch materials, recycled polyester. That's the way forward to build the business and make sure the buyer makes the business grow based on your input. Next one. So today's niche is tomorrow mainstream. Let's look at dresses. For example, we have looked at some niche markets. Women's Alzheimer kit. It sounds ridiculous, but do you know the average age in Europe is increasing massively? So more and more people grow older, so they need care, they need help dressing and undressing. But if the garments are too complicated, it's not easy for the help to do it. So more and more companies are looking towards things like Alzheimer dresses or adaptive wear. Adaptive wear is for people with special needs. So, but also modest wear, for example. Modest wear is another word for Islamic wear. And if you look at the number of Islamic people growing in the EU, it is massively. In the next 10, 20 years, the number of Islamic people is growing massively. Do you know of any Zaras targeting this target group of people? I don't. There are no Islamic wear, modest wear retailers in Europe. So also that is a very potential target group you could target. Special sizes, of course. Well, there are many niches. I advise you to investigate and at least take out one or two to see if it can create extra business for you. Next one. Swimwear. Swimwear is also, it's a niche product. Yeah, it's also undergoing lots of developments. Of course, on the product side, different prints, etc., but also finishes. They're using recycled polyester. Polyesters can be dyed using waterless dyeing. So dyeing without using any water, that is a big way to open doors to new buyers. Recycled polyester bottles from the ocean that are being recycled into new yarns, use of natural dyes. So there's a lot of things going on in swimwear, and also swimwear has its niche markets. Next one, Frans. Yeah. So if you look at product developments in swimwear, you can think about UV protective properties. You know, the average temperature is rising, more sun, we're all scared of burning. So you see different fabrics being developed to protect us against the sun. So there's a lot of things going on there, new qualities that will improve the comfort, but also think about COVID, new developments on for example, protecting us from infection of COVID. So antibacterial fabrics and things like that. It's also a new development going on. Next one, Frans. So today's niche is tomorrow's mainstream. Some niches are special sizes. Think about big sizes. Also adaptive wear, people with a handicap. A modest wear, looking at the bathing suits for people with an Islamic background. A performance enhancing swimwear, so really professional swimwear, and UV protective swimwear. Next one. Competing countries, China, Vietnam, Tunisia, Bangladesh. What makes the difference? I always wonder. Is it price? Is it only price? No, price is not the first priority. It's all about sustainability. It's about speed to market. It's about uniqueness of your proposal. I give an example, Reverso. It's a company that is focused on collecting waste from the different brands in Europe. Normally a brand places an order with a factory, the factory calculates 4 to 6% waste, and the factory takes care of the waste. The customer will never request the waste because they have no supply chain to do anything with the waste. Reverso is one of the companies that say, their buyer requests the waste, collect it, send it to us. We'll turn it into new yarns, which you can use for your next collection. Great concept, very successful, good niche approach, and ready for the future. Next one. Trousers, so let's have a look at trousers. Also a lot of things happening there. Think about use of biodegradable materials. We do not like the synthetics. Even recycled polyester has a negative impact on the environment. We are looking for natural polyesters. And why do we create a trouser that once we throw it away, will stay in nature 100 years to be dissolved before it's dissolved? We don't need that life cycle. We need a short life cycle. Once it's thrown away, the trouser, it disappears after 6 weeks. So we focus more on biodegradable materials. But the materials we do use, we want them to be sustainable. Think about wool. How are the sheep being shaved? Think about eco-friendly fibers, use of chemicals, waterless dyeing, natural dyes. These are all different ways that once you implement them, it makes you different from all your competitors. Next one. Product development. Also in trousers, you see a lot of things happening. Somebody asked me for sportswear. What do you think? Is sportswear the future? Well, sportswear is no longer sportswear. Sportswear is, yes, sportswear, but also mainstream. Sportswear, mainstream, athleisure, casual, it's all being fused into new directions. The easy use of polyester lycra leggings for ladies is casual wear. It's no longer sportswear. So for sure, sportswear is an immense growing market and cannot be categorized as only sportswear. So a lot of things happening in trousers, which is partly influenced by sportswear and also by sustainability. Next one. So today's niche is tomorrow's mainstream. Made to measure, I want to pick out. There's one company called Monroe Tailoring. They offer collections, denim trousers, jackets, suits, shirts, leather bags, knitwear. They present it in the store, and the buyer, the consumer, comes in, selects the color, selects the quality, selects the style, pays, and then it's being manufactured, delivered within 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks. Just imagine how it will change the retailer if all the consumers will buy and pay, and they don't need to keep stock. They make what they've sold. It will be a revolutionary change. Will the industry change like that? No, not 100%, but I hope at least 10%. Next one. So competing countries, many people think that it's all about price. Look at the standard minute value. This is the price for 1 minute of manufacturing in the different countries. You can see Bangladesh is one of the cheapest countries. There are some surprising differences. Morocco is 12 cents, where Turkey is 21 cents. But Turkey is the #3 biggest exporter to the EU. How come when they are more expensive? It's not about price, it's about service. And that is where many companies still need to improve. How fast are you in your communication? How easy is it to work with you? How easy is it to communicate with you? Do you speak my language or not? Those are the ways to make a difference and build a true continuous business. Next one. So fashion sportswear, Bershka, a casual retailer, part of the Inditex group, launches its first sportswear collection. Sportswear becomes mainstream, huge. Next one. So if we look at sportswear, even in sportswear, you have many innovations. The one I like a lot is about measuring. Not measuring performance, but measuring your body temperature, your heart rate, your blood pressure, because don't forget, we are measuring ourselves almost daily. How many steps did we make? How many calories did we burn? And why are we doing it? Because we want to improve our lifestyle. There are even insurance companies that will give you a reduction on your monthly pay if you do not smoke, if you measure the calories you burn, if you do not have overweight. So mixing sportswear with these kind of innovations and offering these products to your customers will open doors for you to new buyers. Next one. Leather bags, just a small tip. We create products in leather, and if we treat them well, they will grow out to become 100 years and even older. Yeah. For many products, we don't need that much time. Shoes, when they're out of fashion, we throw them away after 6 months or 1 year. Yeah, leather bags we keep, but shoes we throw. Why do we need it to be made from leather if leather survives like 100 years? So also the leather is the process of tanning leather is a very chemical process. Chrome 6 was mentioned by Frans, is used in this process. It affects the environment in a negative way. Consumers and buyers are looking for alternative ways of manufacturing leather. We now are able to make leather from pineapple, from mushroom. We make recycled leather. We make chrome-free leather. So there are a lot of alternatives, and that is what's happening in the leather business overall. But there are still some supply chain challenges. If we look at leather, think about decertification, animal cruelty. How can we guarantee the animals being treated in a nice way when it's kept in small herds in Ethiopia or Mongolia and meant for consumption initially? Then it's very hard to guarantee the safety of this animal. And supply chain transparency. These are all challenges which makes it difficult to guarantee or even to comply to the German supply chain law, for example. Next one. So we have created a slide with some of the main innovative trends. Transparency being one. We want to know and guarantee how and where our products are being made. Circular business models. It's not only about you manufacturing, but also you getting the products back after use and recycling them. Use of chemicals. ZDHC is an example. An organization that is very involved in finding alternatives on the chemicals used with a lesser environmental impact. Then biodegradable materials, biodegradable packing materials, and of course automation. By automating, we don't need to go to Bangladesh anymore for cheap labor only. We can manufacture anywhere if we would have fully automated supply chains. And then new concepts. Look out for new concepts. The current changes requested, the new laws will require us to think differently from the regular way of manufacturing. Next, Frans. So just to inspire you, we have mentioned some companies that are really adding value to these innovative trends. They are creating a difference in the entire apparel industry. And look at it. You don't need to invent things yourself. Sometimes it's easier to copy or contact one of the companies and say, hey, listen, let's collaborate. And do things together, especially on the recycle part. There's a lot of opportunity there, and you have brands that are focused on recycling. So 1 and 1 makes 3 sometimes. Study this, look at it, and try to use it in your current setup. Next one. Okay, thank you for listening. As Frans mentioned, all our reports, all our know-how, all our experience is on the CBI website, free to download. So if you have any questions, then do not hesitate to ask.
Thank you, Giovanni. It was very informative, I think. We are. It was planned till 11:15, but let's answer some more questions, and we go a bit over time. One of the first questions I saw, which I think is interesting, is there a database of fabric suppliers with innovative finishings in Europe?
Good question. I do not know of a database. We have been actually discussing this, that we want to create a database. No, there's not. But one tip, before Corona, every fair, the Première Vision, for example, had a different corner presenting sustainable fabric suppliers or manufacturers focused on sustainable finishes and new innovations. So look at those, and perhaps they're there online right now, but look at that's one source to find them, but it's still a matter of going out and look for the right source.
Okay, thank you. And there's another question. What are standard profit margins the brands are used to keep with them? I think you or Pieter can answer it.
Yeah. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. That is depending. But in general, a brand is calculating with a factor 4 minimally, and sometimes it is going to 10. But in general, 5 times, 6 times, that is a little bit the markup you have to deal with. And what you have to keep in mind is that brands are giving to the retailers also a payment condition. Often the condition to what the retailer is asking is a payment of if they pay in 10 days, they get 4.5 reduction. They can pay 30 days net. They also have to transport it, so they have to make costs to get it to the store. What is a kind of amount of money? But in general, it's 5 in 6. Some of them doing 4, but it's sometimes also happening when it is really a brand. It's going to 10.
Okay, thank you. I have a question, I think from Myanmar. It says, how do you think the buyer's perspectives will be regarding the relationship with Myanmar producers in the current political situation?
Well, Myanmar is has been the fastest growing Asia manufacturing country. And why is that? Because the Chinese are moving a lot of their production towards Myanmar. We are looking at the situation. I haven't heard of anybody canceling any orders or moving out of Myanmar because of the situation. And I personally believe that in 1 year with the new elections, everything will be going back to normal again. Because if it's not, then the business will be influenced. And we want to feel safe, and our European Union is not promoting doing business with a military regime country. So the democracy of Myanmar will be of added value for everybody. So I think people in general are still open for doing business in Myanmar, although perhaps now they are looking at the current situation and monitoring it. So.
Okay, thank you. Now let me a specific question from next quarter from Ethiopia. Can you say something on the opportunities and threats of Ethiopia's trade to the European Union regarding to transport costs, production costs, or other trade costs?
Yeah, well, if I look at Ethiopia, especially on the leather, Ethiopia has a vertical setup. They have a lot of leather available, and the quickest win Ethiopia can make is to increase their efficiency. If you are able to increase your production efficiency, you can compete with anybody all over the world. And that is where the biggest challenge is. Majority part of the factories are small or slow in manufacturing. So that would be a quick win on the short term. On the long term, it's all about sustainability. So chrome-free leather tanning, animal well-being, that needs to be the long-term strategy. And then the European market, the international market is open for manufacturers coming from Ethiopia.
If I may add on Ethiopia, from personal experience, sorry, of course, many Western retailers have already set up shop in Ethiopia. Many big brands and retailers have invested in Ethiopia production. So in a sense, it's going really well for Ethiopia, but obviously the political situation is a risk. And what I hear from buyers is that it's the obvious challenges. It's communication, it's service, and it's also MOQs, especially with the Ethiopia-owned companies. They have a very high MOQ, so it's like they make great basics, but you can only buy 10,000 white t-shirts. So in terms of communication, service, flexibility, Ethiopia can improve, and then there's a lot of opportunity for doing business with Europe.
Thank you, Frans, for adding that. I have another question. How to approach online buyers like Zalando to sell a product with own brand?
That's a difficult one. Can I say something about that?
Yes, please.
Now, Zalando invested at a certain moment a lot in their own brands. They had. I also did production for them, and I think it was 3-4 years ago they stopped with it. You must know that bestseller is partly owned. Bestseller Group has 10% of the shares of Zalando, something like that, and they were working also over the bestseller platforms in the Far East and Turkey to realize that. But at a certain moment, Zalando saw that they could make more money with other brands, and then they quit, or they didn't spend a lot of time in their private label production. So I think it's not the right moment to focus on private label with Zalando. The similar situation is with About You and a lot of other online players. Of course, there are online players which are doing private label. In Holland, we have the company Wekamp called, and they are going to focus now on private label. Now, coming back then to the question is how to deal with that and approach on that. That is not different than with other organizations. As long as your company can offer Wekamp, Zalando, About You something where they are looking for and what is fitting in their business model, that can be something like fastness, because with online platforms is fastness and doing repeats is very important, because an online player, when they do their own brand, they have to make a decision that they buy things in advance. But if they see that certain styles are going to run very good, they need extra, and for the extra pieces they where they can make really the turnover with, then they need it fast. And if you cannot follow that, that's a difficult one.
Okay, thank you. Maybe a question for Giovanni. It's a question from Saher. He's manufacturing of formal wear for both men and women, and of course the category is hit hard in the COVID times. So what can we expect from the sector for the future? Is it reviving? Is it dead? What about the segment formal wear?
Yeah, I was just looking at the question asked, and I was writing an answer already. Well, formal wear is also changing from the traditional suit with the tie more towards casual. So you need to wonder what group are you going to target. If you are just focused on the suit and the tie, then you see changes in that, especially in the Netherlands. There are some changes. We are no longer so formal. Even at formal companies, not many are wearing a suit anymore. Or you can focus on niche, like the wedding suit. But what I would recommend is have a look at the company Monroe Tailoring. And I've mentioned that name also during the presentation. They do made to measure, what I explained. And made to measure is being done a lot in especially formal wear. Shirts and suits, and I believe that part of the way forward is to focus on made to measure, especially on suits and shirts.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we answered one or two more questions. Giovanni, you're in the questions pane as well. Do you see any question you would still like to answer?
But the opportunities of that's you would trade okay, I think we had most of them.
I saw a question or someone who's who wants information regarding the United Kingdom market and the United Kingdom buyers.
Yeah. Well, I've got one here. Sorry, what did you say, Thomas?
Yeah, I'm going to read the question now. It's about the United Kingdom market after Brexit. I would like to know if you have any specific recommendation or information regarding the United Kingdom market and the United Kingdom buyers. Are there any specificities?
Well, first of all, there are a lot of big retailers in the United Kingdom who do not rely only on the United Kingdom. Like Primark, they have stores all over. So the business does not depend only on the UK. But what is very important to follow are the trade agreements. So if your company has a signed trade agreement with the United Kingdom and you are from Bangladesh and India does not, then you have an advantage. So follow the trade agreements and then you know how it and if it will influence your business. Yes, United Kingdom is under pressure, but it doesn't depend only on the UK. Next, besides the companies who are going bankrupt, I mean, you have some there also, Arcadia Group, but many of the big ones do not depend only on the UK. Monitor the trade agreements, and then you'll be fine.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll close with this last questions from Safé from Morocco. What are the adjustments that Moroccan factories can do to make their prices more competitive and attract European buyers?
I don't think Morocco need to make their prices more attractive. I think the first priority the Moroccan industry has to do is focus on their service level. They are great manufacturers and they are very competitive. Look at the overview comparing to Turkey, but they need to work on their communicative skills. If I'm a buyer, I want a reply within 12 hours after sending the email. And if there's a problem, I also want a solution. And those basic things are key to doing good business. And that is where Morocco needs to invest.
Okay, thank you. I think we cannot answer all the questions within the time frame. We'll come back to some of the questions by email. And as told to you before, we will share this presentation, and we will also have made a recording of this presentation, and that will be on our website soon as well. You will be informed about that. I hope you have enjoyed this webinar to you all, and I want to especially thank the presenters. Thank you, Giovanni. Thank you, Frans. Thank you, Pieter. I think your information was very practical and of use to our listeners. And I will point out to you that we end this with a small survey about this webinar. So please fill in the survey.
Yes, please.
So thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you also.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.